The evolution of your marketing will be the catalyst for the evolution of your business, and the evolution of your business will provide you with the freedom to focus on the evolution of your life. This is Evolved Marketing with Andrei and Brian. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Evolved Marketing Podcast. I just got to give us a little bit of congratulations, Andrei. I'm pretty proud of us here because here we are, starting to get more and more episodes in the can. We have enough content now where I think we're a legitimate podcast, and I'm really excited going forward with the idea that we're going to be creating one episode a week for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, God willing. And I'm just really proud of us because it wasn't long ago that, I know we shared this story, but we were sitting at Funnel Hacking Live thinking about this podcast, and, you talked me into it. And here we are now, not far removed from that event. And we just went out and we did it. We created the podcast, we created the socials, we created the YouTube, we're uploading, we're getting content out there. We're releasing shorts, and it's just becoming a habit now. And I think it's the habit that really changes the game for us entrepreneurs as marketers, right? Creating content. Hopefully everybody listening to this podcast is either creating content for their business or planning on doing so very soon, and doing so with the mindset that, hey, this stuff compounds over time, and also it gets easier with time. Because I was thinking about this on my drive into the office today. Have you ever driven, Andrei? Where you're driving to work or driving to school for your kids, or somewhere you drive, regularly, and you get to your destination and you don't even remember the drive.
Yep.
It's just like the way your brain works. It compartmentalizes things that it doesn't need to remember, because if you noticed every single detail and remembered every single detail about everything that happened in your daily life, your brain would overload. Well, that's kind of how I feel this podcast is going for us. And if I would think back to episode 1, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I was panicking about the Zoom recording. I was panicking about my camera recording and the audio, and I didn't know how we were even going to publish this thing. And it was kind of stressful in a good way. I think stress is good because it keeps us motivated, keeps us engaged, keeps us excited. But it was a little bit draining. And here we are now, not far removed, and it's just, I think it's easy now. I don't even think about it. I'm excited to get on the podcast. I kind of know what I want to talk about. I'm excited to see you face to face here on Zoom. But it's easy. It's becoming a habit already. And I think that's the hard part for a lot of people. And that's just kind of my motivational story for anyone who is new in the content game, is just keep pushing, stay consistent. It's going to get easier, but most importantly, the results will compound over time. Yeah. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. But anyways, it's great to see you today, Andrei. How are you?
Pretty good, man. It's good that you said the things about building a habit. Because what is it, like it takes 20 days to build good habits, and then 10 days to break them, something like that. So this is something new for us, right? So we're just literally starting, we're learning as we go, to be honest, but just how you said it, we have a podcast now. It started just as an idea. We did a whole month. We did, what is it, in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, we actually did 4 interviews,
Mm-hmm.
or 4 episodes. So we're hustling, we're making it happen. But you're right, though. Now it does feel like a podcast, we just, every week we have to meet at least once a week, have interviews, have guests, talk to guests, see who wants to join. So yeah, it's feeling real, and we're about to actually publish our first podcast too. So
yeah, so we're recording ahead of time, but yeah, tomorrow is the day officially. If you're listening to this now, obviously that episode has been out for a little while, but yeah, that's exciting. I'll tell you what, though, there is one thing, the worst thing about this whole podcast, and I had a lot of fears about this. This is something I wasn't sure I wanted to do, but now that I'm doing it, I'm loving it. I'm excited. And, every time I know that we're going to record a podcast, I'm pumped up in the morning. But the worst thing is because this is on YouTube, now I got to remember what I wore on the last episodes. It's terrible. I get up in the morning. I'm like, oh shoot, what am I going to wear today? Did I wear that on the last podcast or not? So that is quite literally my only stress at this point with this podcast. So I guess it's a good place to be, huh?
Yeah, like also when we create content for like our business, like we're sometimes we create 5 to I don't know 10 episodes in the same day. So then you're wearing the same shirt, but you're posting the content in different days. So it's like, okay, this guy never changes, or like, what's going on?
My favorite thing for you is when I see a recycled short pop up, like whether it's Instagram or YouTube, and you don't have the beard. It's like, who is
That's the
that young
funniest
kid?
one. People freak out. People are like, "Did you shave?" I'm like, "No, it's just an old video."
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. I mean, when you record content, I talk about this a lot with some of my students and people that I mentor. When you are creating content, I talk a lot about the idea of record and redistribute. So I don't know how I got on this topic, but let's dive into this little tip and tactic that I use. So if you're in kind of the same space that we are, where yeah, we're affiliate marketers, but we're also leaders, because if you're in the information business, you're not really in the information business. You're in the leadership business. We're coaches in a sense, not that we're necessarily coaching anybody one-on-one, but we're educating at scale with our content. And I think anybody who's, in that space of selling improvement offers, I guess, really views themselves as the same thing. And if you become a leader in this space, what happens? I mean, you get questions, right? You get a lot of people asking you questions on a regular basis. Isn't that true, Andrei?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of questions.
Yeah. So what I tell people is to go above and beyond. If as you grow your brand, it can sometimes get daunting, where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to respond to all these emails, and oh, everybody's keeps asking me the same question. So you kind of get into the habit sometimes of trying to get through it as quickly as possible. I think at least I've been there in my business, where it's like, oh man, I got 9 emails that came in while I was sleeping last night, and they're all asking, the same thing I've answered time and time again. So, but instead of just giving short answers to the people who are looking to you for leadership, what I always recommend is to go above and beyond. And Loom is a great tool. Loom is the video sharing tool where you can just create a quick video where you share your screen, or you just, share your camera. And it really, what it does is it sets it aside, and it gives you a link that you can give to anyone. Well, what I've found is when people ask me a question, instead of just typing a 3-sentence response in email, if I take the 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it takes to actually get on Loom and answer their question, and if they need help building a funnel or connecting their autoresponder to their website software or whatever, if I actually show them how to do it with Loom, they are absolutely blown away by the level of service that I've given them. But also, I can record that and redistribute it. Now, the next time somebody has that same question, I just go into my Loom, library. I find the video, I copy the link, and I send it to them. And it has that same effect, because I don't use specific names. I don't say, hey, Andrei, here's the question you have. I just answer the question. And it's so impactful. It's one of the things that has helped my business not necessarily grow, but be more impactful. It's a way for me to build a stronger bond with my customers, potential customers, and audience by recording and redistributing. So I think there's a lot of value in that. And if you're not using that, if you're listening to this and you're not using Loom, and you're not answering questions in a way that can be shared at scale in the future, I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and especially if you're giving the same answer to a lot of people, also just doing like a voice over, like a voice recording of you actually explaining it, they'll make it seem like you actually care even more to them.
Yeah.
But just how you're saying, just giving that option of like the video response, right? Like I think that's a really great idea, because you got to put it this way, a lot of people have different learning abilities. Some people are readers, they'll learn by reading. Some people learn by visualizing it, right? And actually seeing what you are actually doing. So it actually, giving those video responses, I think it does, because you don't know how many, like what kind of learning ability somebody has, right? So you do give that video response, they can hear it, they can see it. So I feel
You're
like I'll
hitting them
be
on two different levels.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I'm obviously a big fan of Russell Brunson and everything he's done to grow ClickFunnels. But if you ever see one of his webinars or one of his video sales letters, at least a lot of the time, he'll have the presentation, which is obviously teaching, but obviously selling something as well. But he'll also have basically a text sales letter underneath that video as
Like a
well.
transcript,
Almost like a transcript. Yeah,
almost
that's a
like a
great way of
transcript.
looking
Okay.
at it. And obviously it's stylized in a way with, different words are highlighted or bigger. So it looks more like a traditional sales letter. But yeah, that's a great point. And like you said, people have different learning abilities or styles or
Mm-hmm.
preferences. And if you can hit them in the way that's suitable for them, they're going to be probably more receptive to it.
Yep. Yeah, like when I used to work at the restaurant, I would watch a lot of modules for me to learn how to do prep, how to cook the burgers, how to dress the burger, you know. So I would watch a lot of videos, and it was like hours of videos that you have to watch for you to get to the next level. Well, I didn't really learn that much by watching the videos, to be honest, but I had an idea of how to do it, but I was learning more when I was in the kitchen, actually doing it with my own hands.
Yeah. And that's, anytime you're looking to learn a new skill, like if it's a skill for your business or for marketing, or maybe you're new to this whole game and you're just trying to learn affiliate marketing because it's a great way to get started, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
like we did. You learn by watching. That kind of gives you a little head start. It gives you an idea of where you want to go by watching videos and trainings and taking courses. But really, you learn by actually doing the thing. Like you said, you went in the kitchen, you fire up the grill, you throw a burger down or whatever. That's where you really learn. But there's another level to it as well. Is when you become the expert, so to speak, or at least capable of cooking the food or doing the marketing, whatever. When you turn around and train others or you teach, that's really when you master the skill.
Yep. And there was a lot of times where I would start at the same level as somebody else, right? And then I was able to actually pass them in levels. Even older people that were there, they were it worked as a level system. So you're a level higher level, then you get to actually cook the patties or cook the burgers. So it got to the point where when I go higher, there was people already cooking the patties, but it got to the point where I moved up from them and I actually became their manager. So now I was the one actually explaining to them, okay, well, here's how you get to the next level. But then the mentality they had was like, okay, well, you just go higher basically, right? Like, how are you gonna tell me what to do, right? But then that's when you have to basically know your worth. So the
Yeah,
moment you know your worth, it doesn't matter who you're teaching somebody, because you know that what you're teaching is valuable.
right. And do you think it's the confidence that comes with knowing your worth, or
I think it has a lot to do with it, especially if you're good at something, right? Not everybody's good. There's so much you can teach to somebody, for example, in the restaurant, right? Like there's people that do not get it and they will never get it. And you do try to help those people, but it's just something that they're not gonna get. It might not be the right job for them, it might not be the environment, like, because it's stressful. So some people are really good at it, some people are not as good at it, but they stick around because what else are they gonna do, right?
right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think that kind of relates to marketing as well. For example, you said people in the restaurant. I've been I was in the restaurant business for a dozen years or something, and especially when it comes to doing fast paced stuff like working the line or waiting tables or even managing the door as a hostess. Like you said, you see people who just they're never going to get it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they can't do anything. And
Right.
I think, you kind of look at marketing at the same way. Like, try what seems to be the lowest hanging fruit. But if that doesn't work after you've given a consistent effort for an expanded amount of time, right? Don't just try something for a week and then give up on it.
Exactly. No,
But if you
no.
do something for a month or 60 days and it's just not working for you, don't be afraid to try other avenues. Like I've
Exactly.
mentioned in the past, like just never really been great on Instagram. I still do it, but I don't stress about it. But also, I found that I'm pretty great on Facebook. I do pretty well on YouTube. and TikTok was huge for my business,
Hmm.
and still is. Focus on finding something that you're good at, and for some people that might be blogging, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's
There's
people that don't want to show their face, but they're really good at writing stuff. So utilize what you're good at, utilize those skills, and it's gonna help you for sure in your marketing, in anything that you're doing with your business, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's so much opportunity. I mean, it comes back down to creating, though, right? You gotta
Yes.
create
Yeah.
something.
At least something, yeah. Something it blew me away when I went to the mastermind for ClickFunnels.
Hmm.
Something that Russell said, the information is the same. Everything I'm teaching is the same, but I have different packages. So what I'm basically charging for is for the experience that people are paying me for. So I can for example, Russell can make a course about affiliate marketing, right? He's gonna teach affiliate marketing, and people are gonna buy the course. That's an experience. And then he can be like, okay, I'm gonna do a mastermind. I'm still gonna teach the same thing, but it's a mastermind. That's the experience. Like his inner circle group, he's teaching the same thing, the same marketing things, but people are paying for that experience. So it just blew my mind when he put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we pay for these days, right? Because we
Mhm.
have so much access. Like this weekend, we went to a restaurant in Dallas, and it's called Carbone, and it's kind of hot on social media right now, and it's it's expensive if I'm being completely
Okay.
honest.
Yeah.
And we
Like a
went there.
steakhouse?
It's like Italian.
Okay.
Italian. They have steaks and pastas and stuff like that. I think the thing that really drew my wife in is she's on social media and she sees those influencers, and a lot of
Okay.
influencers live in the Dallas area, and they were talking about the spicy vodka rigatoni or something like that was the dish that oh, you got to try this thing. But anyways, we went into this restaurant, and the food itself was good, obviously. But it wasn't the steak itself that we got. It wasn't any different than any steak that you're going to get at any other restaurant. But what we were paying for is we were paying for the experience. The restaurant itself was beautiful. The decor was amazing. The it was a place to see and be seen, because it's so hot right now. It's a tough reservation. We actually had to go out to eat
Okay.
at 9 o'clock at night, which is way
Oh,
past my
that's late.
bedtime, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a place to see and be seen or what have you. But we were paying for the experience, and it was amazing. But I could have gotten pretty much the same food for a third of the cost, somewhere else. But it
Somewhere
it
else.
was it was it was the experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's same as me. Like we just went to Disney World, right? And we're used to going to Disneyland in California. So literally it was almost the same thing, to be honest. Same, I guess different experience, but the game, the rides were the same. Everything kind of looked the same, but it's just like how you say, the different experience.
Yeah, we went to this summer. We went to uh, Universal in Hollywood, and it like you said, it kind of remind me of Universal in Orlando, which
Yeah.
it's just it's the same kind of, but it's just it's a different experience. So I was checking today, uh, looking at the legendary marketer leaderboard. It looks like you're climbing back up there again, huh?
Yeah. It's been doing pretty well lately. Lately, I guess, yeah, it's been doing pretty well. I don't know. It's always up and down, to be honest.
Yeah, but
Like
I mean, you've been focusing a lot more on kind of the one thing going forward, right?
yeah. So I was doing a couple different programs, at once, and I did it for my personal development because I needed some extra coaching. I needed some extra guidance, and it worked out really well. But then I kind of lost focus on what program I should be focusing the most of my
Mhm.
time, basically. So a lot of people say, don't promote too many things. Um, Stick to one thing, right? Stick to one program that works and just stick with them basically. So that's what I did for a while. But then what I did was I basically kept everything separate. I didn't confuse my audience. So I had different accounts for different programs. And then they were both teaching affiliate marketing, but one was more of a coaching program and the other one was more of just a course that you're on your own. So it worked out for my audience for a little while, and then it got to the point where I just kind of lost focus, trying to do too much, basically.
Yeah.
So then I not recently, like maybe 2 months ago, I went back to just doing the one program. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, right? Like that means, okay, I'm in the right track, so eventually, hopefully it keeps going up.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It's not that anything's better than the other thing. It's really comes down to your focus and your
Mhm.
execution.
Yep, 100%. Like I think they're great programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might think, okay, one might be a better offer to promote, which is normal, it happens. But yeah, if you stick to what works, you'll be fine, to be honest. But how do you get to the point where how do you know when something works, right? By just doing it, and it's not just doing it for like a month or 2 months. You gotta stay consistent. The minimum for to realize that something works, I think, is like 6 months.
Yeah, I agree. I've cycled in my business, and what I mean is I've built it up. I've basically crushed it down to zero, and I've built it back up again. I've done that a couple of different times with quite a few different offers. And what I've found is, you know, anytime you're going to promote something new, whether it's an affiliate product or whether it's your own product, whether you create your own product, it does seem like everything takes about 6 to 8 months to really see that snowball effect where it's like,
Yep.
okay, I'm not just doing I'm not just punching the clock. I'm not just creating content to generate a sale. It's okay. Now I have this ecosystem. It's kind of not self-sustaining because it needs to be fed with fresh content
Mm-hmm.
and new ideas, but you have this ecosystem that really, it's almost like the flywheel where it really starts picking up speed, and that's when the numbers start to get ridiculous. And I think that timeline is 6 to 8 months. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because people always want to know, like, how long is it going to take? It's like, how long is it going to take? Well, what do you mean? How long is it going to take to make your first dollar or make your first sale of this new
Mm-hmm.
program? Well, depends on what you do. You can go out tomorrow and just ask people for money, and that's the easiest way to get money.
Yeah.
But how long does it take to really start seeing the results that maybe you're aspiring to? I think 6 to 8 months is a pretty good estimate that I've seen
Yeah.
repeat itself again and again.
And it doesn't mean that you're not gonna make money with those first 6 months. I was making commissions, small ones, like 2 weeks in, right? So, but it's not sustainable. It's not where, okay, this is it. You can't really make that decision that early on. There's a lot of people that come up to me and they send me a message. They're like, okay, well, I just lost my job, right? And then that the first thing I tell them is, okay, well, you should look for a job. You get me? Like I can offer you something that is gonna, skyrocket your income, because that's not gonna happen, right? So the first thing you gotta do is, okay, find a job, and then you can build this on the side. Because if building this from the survival mode is gonna be really tough. It might work for some people, but I think a lot of the cases that's not the case.
Yeah, you really can't build anything in survival mode. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work. Like, your brain will only focus on the survival. It won't like if you were walking through the forest and you were lost or whatever, your first instinct wouldn't be to plant a fruit tree. If you had a fruit tree, then you would have all the food, right? It would just be right there and you could just pick right off there. But that wouldn't be your first instinct. Your first instinct would be, I need to find food right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's kind of, how you build a business, right? If you're in survival mode, you don't have the luxury of planting a seed.
Yeah.
But when you plant those seeds, that's when you can build these amazing businesses that grow, beyond, at least beyond my expectations. And I think, it is important to
Yeah.
understand what the first order of business is, right? If you lost your
Right.
job, go get a
Yeah. And
job.
exactly. You gotta get that first. I mean, it's like building a fire when it's raining outside, right? It's like you're just gonna get frustrated. Everything's gonna get wet, and you're gonna basically be like, okay, I'm done with this. This is not gonna work. So a lot of people say, yeah, this won't work, but then they haven't been there for 6 months. They haven't put in the work for all this time. You know, they run out of matches, right? They can't do the fire. then that means they give up. And then what's the actual excuse that they say? Is like, okay, this is a scam. This won't work,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we
But
see that
then,
a lot in our business because a lot of times, affiliate marketing is a great first place to get started if you're looking to start a business online. And the thing is if you're a first time entrepreneur, you don't know a lot of these pitfalls or potential pitfalls, or maybe struggles is a better way of looking at it, right? You don't understand that there is going to be challenges, obviously, right? Because all the marketers, we're doing such a good job of making it seem so easy,
mhm,
to attract people. And it can be easy, but you gotta have a realistic expectation of what it's going to look like. And I think that's why people get frustrated too, because if you look on social media, right, and what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, or something like that. If you start comparing yourself to others who are at different steps of their journey, it's going to be demoralizing. It's going to crush, your motivation. But what you have to remember is these people who are out here and been doing this for years, and they make it look so easy. It's because they understand the things that have to be done before the results come, and they just go and do them.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I
like our
mean,
podcast, like we just know, like, okay, we're going to do this for months and it's going to produce nothing.
yeah,
But we know that on a long enough time frame, things will work out. It'll be valuable.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of like comparison too, and then that's what gets a lot of people too. There's a lot of people that, at least in my case, right? 'Cause I'm not going to talk about something else, but at least my case, they look at the leaderboard, right, of legendary, and they see your name coming up, coming up, coming up, and eventually you get a lot of these people hitting you up because your name is up there, right? They're like, okay, what are you doing? What are your strategies? But then as soon as your name is not up there, you don't hear from nobody else.
It's crazy. It's
Yep.
crazy. Like, it's, you know, there was a period of time when I was pretty much living at the top of the leaderboard, where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, for those who don't know what Legendary Marketer is, it's a affiliate marketing education program, or a digital marketing education
Yeah.
program with some high ticket back end stuff, some high ticket courses and such. But they do have a leaderboard where it shows who's made the most money for the day, who's made the most money for the week, and who's made the most money for the month. And there was a period of time where I was on all three pretty much all the
Hmm.
time,
I
right?
remember those days.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing. Like, people are just hitting you up nonstop. Like, what are you doing? And also, you're like a superhero or a celebrity almost, where
Yep.
it's like, oh, there's Andrei, or there's Brian, and it's everyone wants to champion you. But the moment you're not on the top of the leaderboard, because I still love the program, and I'm still close with the CEO and the CMO, and chat with them on a somewhat regular basis. But I went to do my own thing, and guess what? I don't hear from anybody in
Hmm.
Legendary anymore. No one reaches out to
Yeah.
me, and it's because you're not on top anymore,
But
right?
it's
Or
funny
I'm
how
not on top.
people, yeah, it's funny how people act too. They're like, okay, you're on top. They're like, Brian again, he's on top. And then they get mad about it. They get upset about it. And then what ends up happening? And I've seen this happen. They end up blocking you because they don't want to see your name anymore. They block you from social media, and it's just like, why do you have this type of mentality, right? Like why are you acting like this, basically? Like let's just be happy, we're both successful or whatever it is, right? Like, but there's
Yeah,
people that are, I don't know I don't know, I can't find a word how to say it, but I don't know.
it's like they build you up, and then as soon as you get to the top, they want to break you down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. It's just like it's just like celebrities or athletes, or like this past postseason, Aaron Judge, the Yankee, he went out there and hit 62 or 63 home runs, which is an American League record. No one in the American League has ever hit that many home runs. And obviously everyone's super excited about it and pumped. And then the moment he gets to the playoffs and he strikes out, it's like they're booing this guy.
Yeah.
And it's like they built him up into this huge thing that really almost was unsustainable. And then the moment it's not that thing anymore, they turn around and they just hate him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you get some type of pressure, like, okay, you're at the top, right? Now all those people want to see you lose, basically, right? They want to see you lose, or they want to be harder on you because you are on top, you
Right.
know. And then it that breaks people, to be honest, and it not just with our business, right? For example, there's a competition, right? Like how you say, the best striker, right? The best whatever it is, right? Like I'm gonna use soccer as a reference because I like soccer. I watch soccer. So the main striker, right? He scores all these many goals. So now, let's say he scores 50 goals in one season. Now the next season, he's gonna have more pressure on him to score more than 50 goals, because he even if he doesn't score 50 goals and he scores 41, he still not did the best that he could do because he already scored 50 goals. You get me?
Right, right. And whereas, 2 years prior to that, if he would have scored 41 goals or whatever, then everyone would be like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
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 Man, it's there's so many parallels in life. And I like to look at patterns because I think if you look at patterns, not just tactics in your marketing, but if you look at patterns, or principles, as I like to call them, once you figure those out, then everything's pretty much the same. It doesn't matter if you're promoting an affiliate marketing course or a course that teaches people how to play tennis or soccer or teaches people how to make cupcakes. It really doesn't matter that you just find the principles and patterns. But it's interesting, you're talking about, these people get to the top and then, you know, people want to attack them and they want them to lose. And I think that's an important mentality for anyone who's new in starting a business to understand. Like, there's always going to be struggles. So you may as well embrace the struggles of getting started, of not knowing things, because guess what? Once you do know things and your business is rolling, there's going to be a whole new set of struggles that you're going to have to deal with.
Exactly.
It's not going to get all of a sudden just carefree. There's going to be
Yeah.
stresses.
And for everybody listening, I'm 100% sure you, Brian, didn't know you were going to be at the top at some point. When you first started, you probably had no idea you will make it to the top, right?
I had no idea. I was like,
No idea.
it wasn't my first rodeo, but I was just like, okay, here's what I think I need to do to start making this thing work. And I never even had a desire to be on top. I just wanted to start making some money and see if I could
Mm-hmm.
put together a campaign that would produce results.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing that we did was we took action. That's what I'm trying to say. I had no idea I was gonna quit my job, right? I had no idea, I was gonna, it's gonna help me get out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea, but I knew the potential of it, and I just took action, and I just started taking action every single day, because you have to show up every single day, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's telling you, hey, go do this, hey, did you make my wife was, hey, did you make videos today? Like, okay, yeah, it makes sense, but nobody really is telling you what to do, basically. You
Yeah. I
might
heard
have
this
a
the other
mentor
day.
or a coach.
Yeah. And then, the people, I was a 9 to 5er, so to speak. I never worked 9 to 5. I always worked weird hours, but I
Mhm.
had a job from the day I was 13 in the summer when I was 13 years old. So I lived in Michigan when I was a teenager. And in Michigan, they grow a lot of corn up there.
Okay.
Okay. And for a particular type of corn, and now I'm going to give you an education in corn here. So this is going to get interesting. There is basically male corn and female corn. Okay. So the idea here is there are 5 rows of female corn, and then there's 2 rows of male corn, and there's 5 rows of female corn. Well, the female corn is the corn that you want to harvest at the end of the year for the seed. So basically, you grow the corn for the seed to plant so you can
Next
grow
season.
corn
Okay.
for cows or whatever. But you can't have the female corn pollinating itself, right? If you think about a corn stalk, it has those little tassels that come out of the top. So what you have to do is you have to go down the rows of the female corn, and you actually have to pull the tassels and throw them on the ground so the male corn can fertilize the female corn, so to
Mhm.
speak. So anyways, that's what I did when I was 13 years old, because at 13, at least in Michigan, you could do farm work. Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, you had to be 15 to get a job.
Like to
So
be legal, right?
to
Yeah.
be legal, yeah. So at
Yeah. Yeah.
13 in Michigan, we could work for like 3 or 4 weeks out of the summer, and it was great. We worked from like 6 in the morning till 6 at night. but we did it for 4 weeks and we made like $1,000, which is all the money in the world when you're 13 years old, you know?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing. So that would be our money for the whole year. So anyways, I did that for a couple of years, but the point I'm getting at is I was in the 9 to 5 or traditional job from 13 until I quit the restaurant industry when I was 36. Okay. When you're in a 9 to 5, right? If something goes wrong, right? So like if I was detasseling corn at 13 years old and the machines that we would ride on, because we would ride on machines that would drive down the corn rows and we would like hang over the side and pick all the corn or the tassels off. It's called detasseling. If the machine broke down, what would we do? Well, we would just stop working, right? We'd wait for the machine to get going again. Same thing if you're like in the restaurant business and you're just like a server and the kitchen goes down. Well, there's nothing to do, so you just stop working. Well, entrepreneurs, if something goes wrong, you can't just stop working, right? Like you got to go out there, you got to go fix the problem, you got to solve the problem, you got to change your strategy, whatever. And I think that's why people struggle as first-time entrepreneurs or first-time marketers, is because when something doesn't work, they don't know what to do. And so they just stop.
Yep.
And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, like another example is when I first started, I couldn't afford ClickFunnels, right? Because it was $97 a month. I could not afford it, to be honest. I didn't have any money to pay for that. So I was using I first started with a landing page from ConvertKit, right? I was using that as a landing page. And then I went to Aweber. So I was using the landing page for Aweber. And then I found another free funnel builder, which was a GrooveFunnel, right? So I don't know if you ever used GrooveFunnels before, but it's like the most glitchy software that I ever done to actually build a funnel from it. But it was free, right? I mean, you get what you pay for, right? And I was working on this funnel for, I don't know, 5 days, maybe just one funnel, just to make it work and link everything up. And then when I finally finished linking everything up, I was so happy, you know. But then those 5 days was stressful. I was struggling. I didn't know how to make it work, but I was just Googling and researching. And I use Google a lot. Like if I don't know something, I Google it and I research until I find the answer. So I did that for those 5 days. And when I finally hit yes to publish the website, it was working fine, and I tested out and everything was good. And I remember telling my wife, like, yes, it's working, you know, like I worked so hard for this to work, like hours in a day. And it wasn't working before, but I had that drive to make it work, you know.
Yeah.
And then
you just kept going and Googling and trying to figure it out until it worked.
And that's a lot of people don't use Google as much, you know, like instead of how we're talking about how people reach out to the people on top on the leaderboards, they're giving us just answers where they can just literally just type the same question on Google and they're gonna get that same answer we're gonna give them, basically. So a lot of people don't really use Google. I don't know why, or I don't know what kind of, you know, if they know what Google is, you know, but I just Google everything and they give me all the answers. Yeah, you have to dig a little bit deep sometimes, but you will find the answer 100%.
And that's just the mentality thing, you know. It's just the mentality of not being an entrepreneur and being in the 9 to 5. When you don't know what to do, you go ask your boss and you sit there and you wait for them to tell you what to do. And that's just not going to work in this. That requires you to, you know, it's kind of cliche, but be a self-starter, right? Yeah. You are the master of your own destiny, and you are the only one who is going to determine where you go. It's all on you. So that's a lot of pressure too. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're working, you're just used to working, right? Something breaks down, then there's a team that will fix it behind it, right? So the group breaks, you call it in, a team will come in, they'll fix it for you, and then you resume your work. But in entrepreneurship, your website is not working. You're like, okay, what do I do? You know, like who am I gonna call? You know, you have nobody to call. You know, you have to do your research.
But it gets easier too. You know, it's kind of
really easy, yeah.
The theme. You know, it's like I get a lot of people who reach out to me and they're like, "Well, this isn't working." I say, "Okay, well, did you try to clear your browser history before you checked it?" Oh, okay. And then they clear their browser history and check it, and all of a sudden their funnel or their website or whatever is working.
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of one of those things where it's like you got to experience all the problems for yourself, because no one's going to create a course that's going to say, okay, um, if your funnel's not working, double check to make sure that you cleared your browser history, because it might be working, but it's still serving the cached version that wasn't working or whatever. You know what I mean? That's just too much information for a course or what have you. So it's part of the process. You go through
there's
it.
no handbook, there's no handbook that
Right.
would literally tell you, okay, if this is not working, do this, it's just you learn with the experiences, the more you do, the more you learn. Simple as that.
Yeah. You learn by doing. And then when you can get to the point where you've learned enough where you can help other people, once again, then you master by teaching.
Exactly. And then when somebody has a question, you're like, oh yeah, I did struggle before with the same thing that you're struggling, right? But now that you learn it, you're like, okay, here you go. And then they're blown away when you give them the answer right away. They're like, what? Is that simple? Like I might be stupid, right? But it's just we learn because we were at the same point at some point.
Right. Everybody's gone. Everybody who's a successful marketer, entrepreneur, they've gone through the same steps.
Yeah. Because we're not smart, bro. We're not smart. We're just people think like, oh, what?
At the first ClickFunnels event I was going to, I met a bunch of people, and the first ClickFunnels event was the 2021 ClickFunnels event was my first ClickFunnels event. And like I said, I only went there just to go pick up my steering wheel. But anyways, I met a lot of cool people, and at the time in 2021, I was definitely kind of an innovator with TikTok and marketing. And so there was a lot of people who were doing a lot of their marketing on Instagram who really weren't doing a whole lot of TikTok yet. And, they were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the coolest thing ever. But it's just because I went out there and it was like, all right, here's this new platform that's growing and seems to be something that's going to stick around. So I just got to go figure it out. There was nobody to tell me how to make TikToks that would go viral.
Yeah.
I just had to figure it out. And you just go there and you start testing and trying and, seeing what works. And also being a student of the game, I think is important. Because I remember when we had Mila on the podcast, and she was talking about, testing and when you test your content, you have to be just super detailed with it. You got to test it like a scientist. Like, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's the timing at which you deliver. How long is your hook? How long is your story? When does the call to action come? What's in the background of your videos? What sort of, all these things go into it. And once again, no one's going to be able to put everything into a course.
Yeah.
Because it would be too overwhelming. Right?
That's
if I put everything I've learned.
Yeah.
If I put everything I learned over the last 10 years into a course, it would be 97 hours long and no one would ever finish it. And it would be absolutely worthless.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a point where you have to go out there and you have to actually start doing some thinking for yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you do put everything in one course, right, you're gonna overwhelm a lot of people, to be honest. First of all, with the amount of information that you have, like if a course is way too long, I don't know, it's scary, it's overwhelming just trying to go through it, and then it's talking about, starting a podcast, because this is brand new to us, as affiliate marketers, we are forced to learn marketing right away, right? We are forced to create content. We are forced to, because if we don't create content, if we don't promote something, we're not getting paid, right? But then now that we're starting this podcast, something that I learned at the last Funnel Hacking Live was that a lot of these podcasters don't really know how to market. Like they have it backwards, completely backwards. We learned how to market before actually doing something new. So now that we're coming into this podcast, we already had the marketing side of it already set up. Basically, we know what to do to get more views. Hopefully, we'll be able to get views for the podcast. But it's like it's like we're starting backwards, right? In a sense,
right? We're and we don't know how to podcast.
Right.
But I guarantee that we're going to get a lot more downloads And I'm not saying that to be cocky by any means, but I know we're going to get a lot more downloads than some people who are really, really good podcasters.
And they just started, right? Like somebody brand new, right?
Well, someone even who maybe has been doing this for a while, because we know how to market the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is you're not in the business you're in. You're in the business of marketing the business that you're in.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're in the business of marketing a podcast, which is what we know how to do. And that's what's great about affiliate marketing. You learn the most important skill first.
Right. And it's not just for affiliate marketing, it's for any type of business. Even if you have a brick and mortar store, affiliate marketing will teach you how to basically get more sales for your business. It doesn't even have to be, you retail or whatever, it could teach you. You can grab a little bit of any course, affiliate marketing course, and you will learn something that will help you with your business 100%.
Yeah, whether it's how to reach people, how to talk to people, how to, pre-frame an offer, create an offer, it doesn't matter. It's the most important skill if you want to reach people and get people to buy things. And as we know, we make money when people buy things.
Right. Yeah. If we don't do the marketing side of it, we're not getting paid. We don't get paid by clicks, we have to make a sale. That's how we get paid.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially if they're new to this entrepreneurship game, is they really don't connect the dots. They look at it and like, all right, well, I got to create content and get clicks on this link. And that's how I make money as an affiliate marketer. But that's not it. You got to get people to buy things. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. Like someday in the future, maybe we'll have a sponsor on this podcast and it'll be like we created content and the sponsor gave us money. But that's not the whole story. The sponsor is giving us this money because they're selling something. So no matter what you do, it comes down to money comes from other people. And you have to really embrace that thought. So, because some people are like, I don't want to be salesy, or well, you don't have to be salesy, but you have to get people to buy things because money comes from other people.
Yeah. And it's just the focus that you go into your marketing, right? There are a lot of people market by giving value. A lot of people market differently than other people, and that's okay. There's no way wrong of marketing, to be honest, right? Just unless you're being, unless you're stealing from other people, I guess you can say that's wrong. But yeah, people have a lot of ways to market, basically, and
that goes back to where you got to figure out what your strength is.
Exactly.
So there's people who are really good, like I call them hype marketers, and I'm not using that in like a derogatory way, where they can just get people really super excited about an offer. Okay. I don't have that skill necessarily, or I haven't been able to develop it. What I found works for me is to actually give value.
Give value, yeah.
My most successful campaigns have always come down to creating a free course, which is packed with value that teaches, but also gives people the confidence to say, hey, I feel good enough about my capabilities where it makes sense to go buy this thing, which then makes me the commission or the money. And yeah. You got to find what works for you.
Yeah. And I love how you went your way to create like a free course in order for you to basically get paid at the end of the day, right? But your main goal was just, okay, here's all the value that I know, all the information that I can teach you for free. And now they can see if they can, okay, well, they can check it out first, right? They can see, okay, this might be for me, this might not be for me. But somebody that goes through your free course and then moves on to purchasing the other stuff that you promote, they're more likely to be serious about it because they first did something for absolutely for free, right? And you are able to open their world to this new business before they even had to spend a dime. Yeah, so I think that was super powerful that you did, and I give you props for that. I don't know how I may be able to do that.
Well, what I found is it does a couple of things that really are beneficial for my business. Now, the first thing it does is that obviously it tracks a good number of leads, and we all talk about creating value. And what I've found is you got to create a certain amount of value in order to build trust and do all those things to get people to buy things. But where you put your value is up to you. So you see a lot of people who put a ton of value on social media, which is great. There's nothing wrong with it. That's amazing. But what I've found is if you package the value in a free course, right? We record it once, then we redistribute it. I've found that if you have a bunch of value in a free course, which you give away as a lead magnet, but also it facilitates the conversion of whatever you're selling, well, that makes your job easier because now your content can be a little bit more exciting or clickbaity, if you will, because your value is stored in this thing that's already created. So you only have to create the value once rather than going out. Like, I don't have to every day go out there and say, oh, what amazing thing am I going to teach on social media, which can be draining and you can run out of ideas. I just have to go, okay, here's the formula for social media. I'll just repackage it. I'll rearrange it so I can create content in a way that does get the views, educates a little bit about the opportunity, but more importantly, gets people to the free course where they're going to get that value. And that value, like I mentioned, builds trust, but more importantly, that value, really what it does is it gives people the confidence to go forward. I say, people will follow you when they believe in you, but they'll buy when they believe in themselves. Yeah. And that's really what we have to do as marketers is we have to build them up to the point where they feel comfortable enough, to buy our thing. And I like pickleball is huge right now. Oh, it seems like everybody's playing pickleball. So let's say you were a pickleball paddle manufacturer. Well, what would be the best way to sell more pickleball paddles? Teach people how to play pickleball. Right? If you had a free course that taught people how to play pickleball, they'd be like, oh, that's really interesting. I think I might want to go play pickleball, not only because it looks fun, but it's good for my health. It helped me lose weight or stay in shape okay, cool. Now what do I need? Well, I need a pickleball paddle. Well, where are you going to look to buy your pickleball paddle? That person who just educated you on the sport, you would take their recommendation. You would buy whatever pickleball paddle they told you to buy.
It's like a lead magnet,
a lead magnet that facilitates the conversion, right? Value in itself is not going to make you money, but value that has an end goal of educating and building the confidence in the potential consumer really goes a long way in making marketing work.
Yeah. Something that I also just listened to somebody say is like when people say, sell me this pen, right? They ask you that question, sell me the pen. And a lot of salesy people are like, okay, well, do you need a pen? Can you write? You need this to do everything in your business. But then I heard a story about some guy saying, well, this pen right here, this pen was used by somebody important, this pen was used by George Washington. He signed the Declaration of Independence with this actual pen. And that just you're giving them a backstory value of the actual pen. And that's what actually is going to get people to buy because of the story behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can combine the stories in the value, I think that's where the magic really happens. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I created something for my core coaching group or clients or whatever you want to call them a week and a half ago. And I called it the story content map or the content story map. It was something I made up. I don't know which way I called it, but basically what I had them do is I had them take a little exercise where they filled out these boxes or do a little exercise where they filled out these boxes. And in one box, they put kind of their backstory, where did they work? Do they have kids? All of this stuff. And then in another box, I had them write down some of their fears that they had about starting a business, for example. Then in another box, I had them keep a running tally of their wins and so on and so forth. Like, hey, I launched my first funnel. I created my first piece of content. I made my first commission. And I had a couple other boxes there. But the point is I had them fill this out on a Google Doc and keep it accessible. Just to remind them that, hey, when you're creating your marketing content, pick something from that story content map or pick one thing from each box and weave that into your marketing because that's what's going to be the connection.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's going to get people to to kind of latch on to what you're saying, and the stories that you weave into your content is what's going to connect people to your business and your brand, which is going to then make them want to buy from you, right? The differentiator.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we said this a bunch of different times, telling your story is the one that's gonna make you money, basically. And we say we're gonna sound like broken records, but we're gonna keep saying it.
And I will keep saying it too, because part of this podcast is something for us to do. It's kind of a creative outlet. But it's also, hopefully people, when they listen to this, they're going to pick a piece of value out of each episode, right? It might be one nugget, it might be 3 golden nuggets, what have you. But what we know about people is that people have to be reminded more than they have to be taught. Right. So I'll keep saying it again and again, just like hopefully you'll keep saying it again and again. Weave your story into your marketing and watch the magic happen.
Yeah. And it's like creating content, right? People need to consume content. They have to consume content. You can be talking to somebody, but they're not gonna trust you unless they keep watching you for, a week, days, months.
Right.
There's people that barely reach out to me when they're like, I've been following you for 6 months. Now I'm finally reaching out to see what you're doing, and it was 6 months of them just watching,
right.
And then once they get that encouragement that they need, they will hit you up, and then that's already a hot lead because they know they trust you without you even talking to them.
Yeah, so, and when you can do that at scale, that's when it's magical. It takes no more effort to talk to somebody for 6 months than it does to talk to somebody for one day, as long as you're doing it at scale, right? We're creating these conversations one to many.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not having a bunch of different conversations with people. We're just having a continuing conversation at scale.
Exactly, 100%.
And that's the importance of consistency, because you have those people who, maybe they're going to be on your list for a day and they're going to buy because that happens if you have a good conversion process. But there's also, like you said, going to be people on there for 2 weeks, 2 months, or even 2 years before they buy.
Yeah.
But if they're coming along and they're consuming your content and then all of a sudden you disappear for 3 weeks, they're going to forget about you.
Exactly. They won't even find your account. They won't even find it. You're going to be burying their following. That's it.
Right. And then you just lost everything you built. Yeah,
exactly. Like the more you're consistent, the better it is, Even if you take a day off, they're gonna figure out, okay, where's his videos for the day, like you have to stay consistent and basically show up every day. It's not like you can't take a day off. You can definitely take a weekend off or whatever, but then you can also plan ahead for those weekends,
Yeah. Well, I took this weekend off because we went to the Cowboys game on Sunday. I took my kids to their first Cowboys game.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. It was amazing.
That stadium is big.
Stadium is big. It was the weather was beautiful, so they had the roof open.
Okay.
And Cowboys it closes, yeah.
What?
Yeah. And also Cowboy Stadium, or AT&T Stadium, I guess as it's called. They have the sides of the stadium are big glass doors. So normally they're closed and it's just really cool because the light comes in and all the glass, but they had the big glass doors open on the side. So it was just the air was flowing through and it was amazing. And then of course they crushed the Bears. So that's always great too.
You got to be happy about that, right?
Yeah. It was great. But anyways, you can take a weekend off, like you were saying. It's not a problem. If you don't want to take your first weekend off necessarily.
No, really.
Right? Once you create a bunch of content, and there's things for people to consume.
Yeah. And then it gets easier once you build a habit, right? It's just about building a habit. As soon as you have that done, you don't have to really worry about it because your brain is already going to be trained to get it done without you even thinking about it. You're just going to get it done at that point.
Right. Plus, when you build up a big enough library or back library of content, then you have content that people can consume that was created a week ago, 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. That's why like automated email systems, autoresponders, right? Like keep emailing your list because they need content to consume. And I think a lot of people, maybe not when you're first getting started, but once you become a full-time marketer, let's say, right, create a lot of content Monday through Friday, but have to remember that a lot of people consume their content on the weekend, right? When they're not at work, when things slow down, when they're not taking kids to school and practices and stuff like that. So you better make sure you've created enough content to give them something to consume throughout the weekend.
Yeah, and you can schedule the posts. You can have multiple videos on drafts, So even though you're not gonna be creating the day off, you could create the day before for the day off.
Right.
So I don't know. Social media, they have so many tools for us to use, and we just gotta learn and use them. I'm sure there's a lot of them that I have no idea how to use. But I can still learn all of them and then use them for my business. So we
Yeah.
just have to utilize what they give us basically.
Yeah, you're gonna get me fired up again. I'm gonna get here my old man marketing speech about how easy it is these days versus how hard it was when I first started.
You're gonna get mad again.
I got him mad again. It's like, you know how easy it is now? And I know nothing's easy when you've never done it, but I was thinking to myself when you were telling your story about building your landing page, how it took you 5 days using the glitchy software.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how I wanted to build this landing page on WordPress, and this is 9 years ago or whatever. But what I wanted it to be side by side. I wanted a video on the left, and I wanted the email opt-in on the right. But I wanted it to be at the same level, right? Not one below the other.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be at the same level, and I don't know why I wanted to do that. Somebody who was a marketer probably told me that this converts it, 10% better or whatever. It's like, all right, I am going to create this. So I'm like, I don't remember what I had to do, but I figure out iframes and coding to get the things to populate right next to each other. And this is before everything was mobile, right? Like I was thinking about for desktop or laptop. I was like, I want it to look like this. And it took me like 3 days to figure out. And then I got it done and I looked at it. I was like, this is stupid. And I just trashed it. That's part of the process though.
But it took you 3 days. It's like,
yeah. 3 days to do it, then I just trashed it because it was dumb. But you know what? That's part of the process, and you're gonna do those things in your business. It's just like, this just didn't work, but it's okay.
It's okay. You just gotta keep moving forward.
That's it.
That's it. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for today. I think it was a great episode. Is there any final words that you wanna tell our followers or our viewers, our listeners?
Yeah. I mean, I think if we look at the theme today, I guess one theme that we can really pull out is, of course, consistency. I know that came up again and again. So, the way I think about consistency, right? And this is just kind of a little analogy that I'll finish with, and then I'll give you an opportunity to share your thought on the theme. But imagine if you're going to pump water out of a well, right? Have you ever seen one of those big hand pumps?
Like the old school ones?
Yeah, the old school ones where you pump. Well, what happens with that? Well, when you start pumping that handle, does water come out right away?
No.
You got to pump it. And really what's happening is you're bringing the water up the shaft or the pipe or the tube or whatever until it reaches the surface, and then the water starts flowing. And if the water starts flowing and you keep pumping, what happens? It almost creates like a siphon effect where the water is now pulling the water. And now it's really easy to pump and the water's just flowing. Well, that's when your business is going really well. But it's because you spent the time pumping where you didn't get the results, right? When those first dozen or 2 dozen pumps, you're going to be working, no water's going to come out. But what happens if you're pumping? Let's say you're pumping and no water's coming out. You can't see that the water's coming up the pipe or the shaft, but it's working its way to the surface, right? Like the money is getting closer to you. But if you stop pumping, what happens? Does the water stay halfway up the shaft? No,
back, right?
It goes back. It rushes out. The shaft is completely empty. So if you stop, you lose all momentum. The next time you start pumping again, if you stopped, you don't start from where you were. You start back from zero again. The water's gone. So you just have to keep doing the work independent of the results. And then eventually the water or the money will come to the surface, and then things will get easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then my last final words, of course, building habits is going to be hard. Okay. It's tough, it's like almost a month of doing the same thing. But like I said, anything that you try to do it's tough, right? You get a new job, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, right? So it's like working out basically. You know, if you work out and you do it for a whole month, the next month is gonna be so much easier than the first month. So you just gotta do it. Just know that you're building good habits because you have goals, right? You want to put those goals first and then be like, okay, how do I get to these goals? You know, by building good habits. And then eventually you're gonna get there. And you're gonna look back and you're like, okay, well, this wasn't as hard as it looked like, or as hard as it sounded like, you know. But then your brain is gonna you have to work on your brain because your brain's gonna tell you, oh no, it's gonna be hard. It's not gonna be easy. So just take it one day at a time and then you'll be successful. You'll reach your goals eventually.
And once you are successful or you reach your goals, set new goals, but also I can promise you, you're not going to care how hard it was or how long it took. Once you get there, it'll all be worth it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, Andrei. It was great speaking with
Thank you,
you.
Brian.
Thanks everyone who tuned in. We'll see you in the next show.
Peace out, guys.